everyone. Good evening. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate everyone who is here today to honor the life of Charlie Kirk and to rally with other American patriots for a night of worship and prayer in his honor. Thank you also to the organizers who invited me to speak. It's a big honor, and I'm grateful. Thank you, Tara. There you are. Thank you. What we're going to be doing tonight is the most important thing we could be doing and the most likely to affect lasting change for our country. Revival always starts with worship. I want to talk a little bit tonight about the moment our country is in, what is at stake, and what we can do about it. This is a significant time for us to gather because Tuesday was Charlie's birthday. He would have been 32 years old. Instead, 36 days ago, he was murdered by a radical leftist in an act of evil and cowardice. Charlie had been sitting in the open air of a college campus in Utah, doing what he loved, talking to college students and arguing in defense of the truth. His intelligence and quick thinking made him a formidable and entertaining apologist. Yet beyond mere political spectacle, he also shared the gospel of Jesus Christ with everyone, whether they'd come to listen or to heckle. In fact, sharing the gospel was one of the last conversations he had, moments before he was shot in the neck. He died in the middle of the public square in open debate. There is something particularly vile about an act of murder that takes place in unsuspecting public against someone speaking in the free market of ideas. And in killing a man known for his Christian values, they attacked not only Charlie Kirk or free speech, but Christianity itself. In that sense, Charlie is a true Christian martyr. Church history tells us about another martyr named Polycarp, who had been a direct disciple of the Apostle John. Like Charlie Kirk, he was a man known for speaking openly in public, humble, but unafraid of opposition. It was said by church father Irenaeus that his words were not only instructed by truth, but also full of gentleness and dignity. After Polycarp was executed for refusing to deny Christ, the church in Smyrna wrote words that we could apply to Charlie's death as well. They asked, what need was there to seize a man so openly teaching the truth, except for the madness of hatred? Those words, the madness of hatred, reflect something we've seen, not only in the shooter, but in large segments of the left, who seem determined to either excuse the murder or go as far as celebrate it. This is not a new trend, nor is it unique to Charlie Kirk and his assassination. According to a YouGov poll, 25%, or 1 in 4, of self-described very liberal Americans said they approved of using violence to achieve political goals. Only 3% of very conservative Americans said the same. This isn't just in far left cities, in faraway blue states, by the way, that could never show up here. It shows itself locally as well. Just a few months ago, in a video you can find on my account, The Public Pen, I interviewed liberal protesters in Huntsville, asking them what they thought of Donald Trump. One normal-looking lady said plainly, "We need to assassinate him." This, with a straight face, to a person she had just met 5 minutes ago and who she knew was recording her for an interview. Another said that the person who shot Trump and killed an innocent man in the crossfire, a husband and a father, was an American hero, and called the shooting the act of a patriot. And of course, lest we think this is just a problem with a few crazy extremists, the Democrat candidate for Attorney General in Virginia, Jay Jones, fantasized about shooting his Republican colleague, Todd Gilbert, with 2 bullets to the head. He also said that he wished Todd's wife, Jennifer, could see her children die in her arms so that they would both change their positions on gun control. He justified this saying, quote, "Only when people feel pain personally do they move on policy." This is only one example in a growing pile of violent rhetoric supporting real-life violent actions. Perhaps even more disturbing is that not a single Democrat has withdrawn their endorsement from Jay Jones. They are 10 toes down, ready to support him, as the local Democrat Party office said in a statement. Why is this? It seems logical to conclude that it's because they're okay with this rhetoric. If it gets their guy elected, or it gets you to move on policy, a little violence isn't a deal breaker. They might not pull the trigger themselves, but when someone else does, they'll say, "You had it coming." It used to be easy to dismiss the language of Jay Jones or of the liberals in Huntsville as ignorant hyperbole. But when you live in a world where leftists now tacitly endorse murder as a valid political tool against they decide to call Nazis or fascists, a world in which the President of the United States was almost assassinated not only once, but twice, and a world whose leading conservative speaker was murdered in cold blood and the left celebrated, you have to take them seriously. It becomes clear that their false accusations are not merely intended to get clicks or drive an algorithm, they are intended to set the precedent for your murder. They truly believe that silencing their political opponents, whether with bullying, censorship, or a bullet, is the best way to fix the problems they see in the world. This is the only way, because in the words of Jay Jones, only when people feel pain personally do they move on policy. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm as big a fan of the free market of ideas as you will find. But we cannot have a free market of ideas with people who are intent on shooting up the marketplace if they don't like what you have for sale. So where do we go from here? Obviously, we need enforcement of our laws. Calls for violence have never been protected speech, and those who call for it need to be arrested and prosecuted. And while it's not technically illegal to celebrate and trivialize murder, it's certainly immoral and disgusting. So if you lose your job, or shall we say your late night TV show, or for those things, don't come to the Christian right for sympathy. These people must be rejected from us by polite society until they can behave themselves like civilized Americans. We must all become strikingly less tolerant of a good many things we've been told to put up with. Ostracizing and publicly condemning those who celebrate or excuse murder is a fine place to start. But these are band-aids on a diseased society. In truth, the only way to fix this problem permanently is to fix our culture, which has become increasingly godless and secular. Charlie Kirk often talked about the Christian roots of America and reminded us that ours has always been a Christian country. We were founded by Christians for the exercise of Christian liberties. Our system of laws and government are based on ideas written by Christians. The farther we've veered from these roots, the farther we have veered into violence, degeneracy, and evil. As a result, we must restore Christianity and Christ in our country and culture. Secularism is not an option. This doesn't mean that everyone in the country must be a Christian. This has never been true in America. But from the beginning, Christian presumptions have been baked into our government and society. These presumptions about life, law, and morality have ensured public peace. A common cultural understanding used to unite us. In this arrangement, even those who don't believe in God could be called cultural Christians, to borrow a phrase from famed atheist Richard Dawkins. Bet you didn't expect a Richard Dawkins quote at a worship service, did you? These are people who may not share the Christian faith per se, but they abide by its norms in society because that's what's expected of them, and they recognize that those values are what support the civilization that we all enjoy. If you need any evidence that secularism has already turned your Christian convictions from something that used to be universally acknowledged to something strange and alien, consider the words of Thomas Chatterton Williams, a writer for The Atlantic. He posted to X from Charlie Kirk's memorial saying, quote, "I've spent half of my adult life living in one foreign country or another, and I don't think I've ever felt so estranged from the surrounding culture as I am from the aesthetics and sensibilities of this movement. It's not even a criticism," he said. "I just feel more at home in Greece than in these images." The pictures that to him looked foreign featured people with American flags and crosses, rather like we have here tonight. They showed crowds worshiping along with Chris Tomlin, Phil Wickham, and Brandon Lake. They showed crowds listening to our political leaders preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ with clarity and precision. It is indeed a great tragedy that in a country accustomed to crowds waving foreign flags and speaking in foreign languages, that we have allowed secularism to make us the foreigners and make our flag the alien aesthetic and make the cross of Christ something strange. This is a direct consequence of giving up Christian culture in favor of secularism and multiculturalism. We must oppose anything that continues this trend, whether it be the corruption of our culture internally or the replacement of our culture from the outside. It is important that we also strenuously object to the erosion and disrespect of our language, our heroes, and our holidays, because these too are artifacts of a distinctly Western Christian culture, and the way we live is what we will become. You cannot replace them and keep your national identity. We must take this seriously, because the condition of a nation is a direct result of the culture and the faith of its people. There is nothing magical about American soil or land that gives us peace and freedom. It has always been the people in the land, their culture, and their beliefs that have made this a good place to live. Conversely, if you import a Muslim culture, you will have Sharia law and women forced to cover their heads. If you import a Marxist culture, you will have authoritarian socialism and hatred of religion. And if you choose secularism, you get whatever degeneracy the sexual revolution can invent and the moral chaos that will follow. We have all of these things today around us. The left has told us that secularism is true neutral because it has room for everything, that radical inclusion is the only fair way, and that diversity is our strength. But in accepting this lie, all we've accomplished is that we've allowed the left to drive Christ out of public life and import in his stead Muhammad, Marx, monkeypox, and everything in between. And then we've acted surprised when changing the people and culture has led to a change in our civilizational stability. It's time to wake up from this stupor. We must now choose between chaos or a return to Christ. The stakes are high, because in whatever non-Christian belief system wins out, whether Islam, Marxism, or general secularism, convictional Christians like you and I are the heretics. We're hateful, fascistic, and worthy of excommunication at the least and of execution at the most. We know that it was Christians who founded this country, who did so to protect their right to worship freely, and we intend to keep it that way. This must remain and will remain a Christian country. This will require spiritual revival and political reform. But any political reform we hope to have will only be effective if it is wrapped in the Christian principles that made us great in the first place. The French Revolution is an example of a democratic political change without Christ. It was a bloody classist fight, which saw churches burned, priests executed, and mobs ruling the streets. And of course, look at France today. They're ruled by weak men, overrun with migrants, and have an obscene and atheistic culture. No, the path forwards cannot be a mere recommitment to democratic values and even more social liberties. The only way out of this mess was exemplified for us at Charlie Kirk's memorial service in Arizona a few weeks ago. At this event, our own Vice President, J.D. Vance, and our Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, joined with the pastors and worship leaders sharing the gospel of Jesus Christ. We listened to them preach Christ crucified, resurrected, and ascended with more courage and clarity than most churches have heard from their own pulpits in decades. My friends, that is the path we need to take forward. It is proud Christian patriotism, deeply intolerant of evil, and insistent on the truth of Jesus Christ in every place. To conclude, I want us to return to the martyrdom of Polycarp, which we talked about earlier. In the same epistle, written by the church in Smyrna after his death, they concluded with these remarks. The Lord will permit us to celebrate the birthday of his martyrdom in memory of those who have already fought and for the training and preparation of those who are yet to fight. Early Christians viewed Polycarp's martyrdom as a good reason to gather, like we're doing right now, to celebrate his life and to remember him. But beyond that, they also knew the importance of gathering to train and prepare those who would carry the fight into the future. May that be what we do with our energies. Tonight, remember Charlie Kirk, pray, and thank God for his work. But you must go beyond that. like the early church, train and prepare so that you can continue the fight. You've probably prayed the Lord's Prayer, which asks that God's will be done on earth, here, among us, as it is in heaven. If that's your sincere will, then fight to make it happen in your own country. Restore Christianity to public life. Bring Jesus back into government. Bring Jesus back into schools. Defend your culture. Be proud of your Western American heritage and teach your children to do the same thing. Don't wait for someone else to do it. You do it. It starts with opening your mouth and speaking the truth like Charlie Kirk did. The next generation that inherits this country will thank you. Thank you everyone for coming out tonight. God bless.